Welcome back to another Gaming Memories video. Here we're actually playing Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit. This is the third game in the series that was released for the PlayStation, and it was released actually in 1998. As I mentioned in previous videos, if you haven't watched them yet, where I've done videos on the first and second games in the series, I'll leave links to them in the description so that you can check them out before you watch this one. And this is actually the first game I actually played properly in the Need for Speed series, and frankly it was actually probably the best game to actually start with, because this is definitely, in my opinion, one of the best games in the franchise in general. Definitely one of the best games on the PS1, and it's actually, in my opinion, definitely one of the best racers I've played pretty much ever. It's actually a really good game. Now, there are better racing games out there in general in terms of the mechanics and the way, the style of the play, but when you look back in the previous videos and even explanations I mentioned, when you look at the graphics and the style of the games, they definitely knocked out of the park with this game, because it's a lot more refined in terms of how it plays, how it looks, and again, has a great soundtrack. Has a fantastic selection of exotic cars that you can drive around in. The sound effects are awesome, and just the overall aesthetic and the feel of the game is actually brilliant, and it just looks really cool. Plus, it's the first Need for Speed game in the franchise that actually allowed you to play against the cops as well, where they'll be chasing you and trying to stop you the whole time. So it added an extra element and an extra challenge to the gameplay style, which not too many games really had implemented those elements at that point. So it was definitely something new and unique. Even when this was released pretty much straight along the same time as Gran Turismo, which is pretty much considered to be the greatest racing game of all time on the PlayStation. It's actually sold the most copies of any racing game ever, and this pretty much was released roughly around within a couple of weeks of that. So it was interesting to see, because quite frankly a lot of people were playing Gran Turismo, but this here game actually done really well in terms of what it offered as well. A lot of people actually played this too, and it was a really good time to be a racing game fan, let's just put it that way. Because I remember it was actually my mate Derek that lived across the road from me when we were kids, and even though we had actually got Gran Turismo on the day of release, about a week or two later he actually got his hands on this here, and he actually invited me over to actually try it out. And he's like, dude, I'm only after getting a new Need for Speed game, and he says it's absolutely freaking awesome. He says, I do love Gran Turismo, but I'm actually enjoying this one just as much. And I was like, oh, I should give it a go. And I have to say now, I was completely blown away by it. I was just like, you know what, this actually looks cool. Now, I know graphically it wasn't as good as Gran Turismo, which, quite frankly, Gran Turismo was one of the best looking games on the PlayStation, but this year the graphics were phenomenal on it. Again, the gameplay, the style, the mechanics, even the use of the graphics, even when you look at the cars, the reflection of the backgrounds on the likes of the windscreens and stuff, it was really good. It was very high res and high quality for its time. So you could definitely see a step up in the terms of the graphics and the quality of the gameplay and stuff as games have gone on over the recent years of the PlayStation, compared to what they would have been, say, in previous games. So it definitely was a good way to get stuck in my opinion. This here track now that I'm playing on is actually pretty much the first track in the game, but it's also one of my favourites. I just love the whole aesthetic in it, like you're driving around kind of like country kind of lanes, and it's kind of got like an autumn feel to it, where you can see the different colours in the trees and stuff like that, and the environments around. And you can see kind of like the elements of fallen leaves and stuff on the ground, which is really awesome. So you can see the type of the quality in the graphics, and just the little things around the place that actually added so much. It made it feel a lot more authentic, and it also added to the realism of the game as well, which was pretty awesome. The whole game in general just actually was really good. Now, I will say again, like with any racing game, and especially with the Need for Speed franchise, as a beginner coming into it, it's not the most beginner friendly games, I will say, but this was definitely easier to pick up and play compared to the previous two games in the series, in my opinion, from looking back when I played them. And it definitely has a high enough learning curve, and it takes a while to master the game, but when you get the hang of it, it's really, really good. And again, you do have loads of different options that you can start off with. And again, like I say, I'm just going to go into a hot pursuit race here just to kind of show you racing against the cops. So it added a lot more elements to it. You have different options as well. You could change the dynamics of the weather, you could change the time of day or night, you could even have mirror driving so it reflected the layout of the track as well. So it just added to the flexibility of the game and the challenge of it as well as you were playing it, which was awesome. And again, as you can see, you had a massive selection of really highly desirable exotic cars as well. So all in all, it was a really good package and a really, really good game. And it definitely paved the way for later games in the franchise, like even the ones came out after this, the likes of Need for Speed, High Stakes, or Road Challenges it was called here in Europe, and Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed, and then even later games like on PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, even up to current consoles and PlayStation 4 at the time of this recording. So it definitely paved that way for games to really kind of just go all out. Like there was even like pretty much a remade version of this here on the PlayStation 3 back in 2010, and it was called Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. But the premise of the game, even though it felt like a different game, the idea was taken pretty much from this game here. It was more refined with better graphics and different types of cars and stuff like that, which was pretty cool. But again, it's great to see the likes of the style of the games and how games of old do have a massive influence of games that are made today, and how they can make them, add to them, and preferably make them better. But even with that, there's still something about these old type of games, definitely nostalgia, that retro feeling, that still, in my opinion, it's very, very hard to find with new games. These type of old games really, from my experience, really do stand the test of time, and they do hold their own in terms of how they make you feel as a gamer in general, of the type of ideas that they had, and being able to explore new ideas, and just to see how you could play certain games, and how they really pretty much just how, like I said, how they make you feel, which was pretty awesome. That's why I always keep saying I love the PlayStation 1 so much, because it was such a unique console for its time. As you see here, I got caught by the cops, so my driving's not up to spec. Definitely need more practice. But again, that was the thing with this game as well. You could be killing it 1 minute, flying around, no bother, and then you can make one simple mistake and then you're destroyed then. There's very little room for error in these type of games, but that's what made them so much fun to play as well. So that's what actually kept you playing them, because you were always trying to challenge yourself to see if you could actually better your times and so forth. You could always try and push the limits. And even for the games back then, they really were unique, because the quality of the games that were available, even for those old type of games, were phenomenal, and they did pave the way for modern games today. A lot of the games that we were playing on modern consoles probably would never have existed only for games like this, which is quite unique, and quite rightly so, because these old games are fantastic. And I just love the whole aesthetic of the whole 32-bit era at the PlayStation. I just love that style of graphics. That would probably be, in my opinion, my favourite style as well. It looked realistic, but at the same time, compared to today, it does look simplistic, but you could see what they were trying to do with what they had, and they always were able to kind of make it work, which was an awesome feat in itself in terms of what games offered back in those days. So it was fantastic. Like, you were able to add even really good high quality graphics with great playability, and literally actually really good aesthetics and visual appeal as well. So there was so much there that was really, really good. I remember actually my mate Derek, actually, because he owned this, and I remember playing it and I just thought it was fantastic, and even Derek was totally addicted to it as well, and even he still maintains to this day that this is definitely one of his all-time favourite driving games, and I totally agree with it, because it really is. It's a really, really good game, and definitely one of the best in the franchise in my opinion. Even if you compare it to more modern games, you'd still probably bet a lot of people would still nearly agree and say that this is one of their favourites as well, because I imagine that most people that were introduced to the franchise, like myself, probably played this game first off because it probably is one of the most well known in the franchise as well, in terms of what it offered, and the fact is that you were able to get chased by the cops as well. That was one of the massive unique appeals to this game as well. It was such a fantastic feature to have in the game. Again, it was very tough, there's no denying that, but that's what added to the challenge, and that's what made it so much fun, because it really, really is a fantastic game, and it's definitely one of my favourite racing games on the PS1 for sure. Now I know it had more of an arcade type feel compared to the likes of Gran Turismo and a couple of other games, but that didn't matter, because it just, how it made you feel when you were playing it was fantastic, because it really was such a good game. It really was for its time. And considering, as of recording this video, the game is now 22 years old and it's still just as playable today, in my opinion, as it ever was. It's a fantastic game, and I will still find myself always going back to play it every so often, because it is such a fun game. Because that's the cool thing about games like these here, is they do stand the test of time in terms of how they made you feel, and you find that you'll always have fond memories of them, you'll always will go back to play them. That's what's so unique about these games. And I'm sure a lot of people actually agree with me on this as well, knowing how good of a game this version of the franchise actually is. Because this is when Need for Speed really started to take on its own and really became a force to be reckoned with, for sure. So what are your thoughts on Need for Speed 3 Hot Pursuit? Is it the first game you've actually played on the franchise on the PlayStation 1? What are your thoughts of it? How good do you think it is? Make sure to share your thoughts down in the comments below, as I'd love to hear it. So if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, also hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon as well to be updated with future videos, as I will be doing more videos for other games on the Need for Speed franchise, even just with other racing games in general, as there is a lot of games to cover on this platform, and I'll be trying to get through them all as much as I can. So again, hopefully you enjoyed this video, and as always, until next time, make sure to keep those gaming memories alive.